Welcome to the Living with Narcissists podcast, where the first recommendation is don't. But unfortunately, that's not always possible. So this is your haven for validation, insight, strategies, and resources. So let's get started. Welcome, I'm Carrie, and this is the Living with Narcissists podcast. In the last episode, we learned about adverse childhood experiences, ACEs. We learned that ACEs are linked to a wide range of physical and psychological problems in adulthood. Included in the show notes of the last episode, there is a link to an ACEs quiz. I hope you took the quiz and got a very low score. If you haven't taken the quiz yet, the link will be included in the show notes of this show. I encourage you to take the quiz because this quiz can help you assess how much trauma you experienced in childhood, as well as what type of trauma you experienced. The ACEs assessment segments trauma into 3 categories: abuse, neglect, and household challenges. Abuse can be emotional, physical, or sexual. Neglect can be physical or emotional. And lastly, household challenges include intimate partner violence, parents who separate or divorce, a household that has drug use going on, living in a household with someone who has a mental illness, and having a household member who went to prison. The higher your ACEs score, the more likely it is you will experience adverse outcomes in adulthood, some of which you may be engaging in right now. But don't worry about that. You're in the right place at the right time, no matter how old or young you are. The best time to address these challenges is now. I have 4 ACEs, and my husband has 7. We work to overcome our childhood trauma, and it is making a difference in our lives and the lives of our children. And it can make a difference in your life too. With higher ACE scores, it can become more difficult to address the trauma that you experienced in childhood. And narcissism is a trauma-based disorder where the coping skills are immutable. In other words, they do not change. And therefore, the rigidness, the immutable coping strategies of the narcissist can be very hard to overcome and see change. My husband is one of those people that has very difficult time dealing with his trauma and accepting new coping skills and changing. But even for him, going to therapy and having a spouse who will not participate in the dysfunction anymore has forced him to have to deal with his stuff and find new ways of coping, because I will not respond to the old coping skills. So the adverse behavioral outcomes include smoking, alcoholism, drug use, lack of physical activity, and missing work. Physical and mental health outcomes include severe obesity, diabetes, depression, suicide attempts, STDs, heart disease, stroke, cancer, COPD, and broken bones. In May of 1998, the American Journal of Preventive Medicine published a study entitled Relationship of Childhood Abuse and Household Dysfunction to Many of the Leading Causes of Death in Adults. The results showed that as the number of ACEs rose, So did the risk of these issues. Respondents who have 4 or more ACEs had the highest occurrence of these behaviors. 12% suffer from severe obesity. 16.1% consider themselves to be an alcoholic. 16.5% were smokers. 18.3% have attempted suicide. 28.4% have used illicit drugs, and a shocking 50.7% have experienced 2 or more weeks of depression in the past year. Wow, my husband is one of those that suffer from depression, but don't worry, although it's been a difficult journey on a bumpy road, it has improved significantly, and you can improve your situation too. I have walked this road, and I can point the way. So how do we mitigate ACEs and diminish the impact of the multi-generational curse of dysfunction? That is accomplished with protective and compensatory experiences, PACEs, which act as a buffer or insulator to childhood trauma as well as contribute to healing. A 2021 study published in PubMed Central, PMC, that's a biomedical and life sciences journal at the U.S. National Institutes of Health's National Library of Medicine. This study examined how protective and compensatory experiences, PACEs, before age 19 can buffer the negative associations between adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, and parenting attitudes. They discovered that the most significant PACE is the unconditional love of a parent, extended family member, or mentor. Other PACEs that are known to mitigate adverse childhood experiences include hobbies, participating in clubs, physical activity, having at least one best friend, an education system that provides resources, and mindfulness. When we're aware of how childhood trauma leads to the struggles of life in adulthood, we can consciously change course, not only for ourselves, but for our children. That is why it is important to be aware of the ACEs. So if you have children in your life that are experiencing ACEs, you can consciously minimize the ACEs that they're experiencing and add PACEs to their life. And as a person who can provide unconditional love to these children, you can have the most significant impact on the lives of these children. So if you are the healthiest person in the room and you are aware of adverse childhood experiences and you are aware of how to mitigate that with protective and compensatory experiences, PACEs, you can have the greatest impact on the future of the children in your life. The concept of awareness is critical to healing. To quote Dr. Phil, you cannot change what you will not acknowledge. You are on the right path. Stay on it. In the next podcast, we will learn how ACEs influence health and well-being throughout life. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope this information is helpful. If you like my content, please choose to follow, subscribe, or provide a rating so I can share this information with more people and you don't miss out on future episodes. I look forward to sharing more in the future. Have a wonderfully peaceful day. Till next time.